Welcome to a special emergency drop of the Short Game podcast. Normally, we spend our time on this show dissecting business strategy and building the ultimate playbook for your company. But today we are hitting pause on the usual programming. We are pivoting to address a fundamentally broken social economy that is quietly draining the focus and energy of driven men in their 20s and 30s. I am talking about the modern dating market. The power dynamics have completely shifted, and the traditional rules no longer exist. We are going to look at the raw data, the skewed attention economy, and the psychological toll this takes on guys who are just trying to build a solid foundation. We are going to break down how you can navigate this chaos without losing your mind or lowering your standards. Let's get into it.
I'm Ana de Armas. What's your name?
My name is Tom Shelby.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius.
King Ragnar. That is my name.
Yo soy Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria.
I'm Batman.
This is Jon Snow. He's king in the north.
My name is Asax Schrader.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Antonio Montana.
My name is Patrick Bateman.
My name is Walter Hartwell White.
My name is Gustavo, but you can call me Gus.
Emergency drop of the Short Game. I am your host, and today we are executing a very necessary and hard pivot. Normally, we sit down to dissect the business playbook, market trends, and high-level corporate strategy. However, there is a fundamental crisis occurring outside the boardroom that is aggressively destroying the foundation of our society. Today, we are going to dissect a fundamentally broken social economy, which is the modern dating market. We are taking a premium, highly analytical approach to understand exactly why the romantic landscape has become so incredibly hostile. If you are a guy in your 20s or 30s, I already know that you are currently facing severe frustrations. You have likely played by the rules, worked hard on your career, and expected the social contract to hold up its end of the bargain. Instead, you have been met with a hyper-rationalized, data-driven dating market that mirrors the most extreme inequalities of the broader digital economy. The game feels entirely rigged against guys who are simply trying to build a genuine 50-50 life with a quality partner. This is not just a passing phase or a string of bad luck. The modern dating dynamic is structurally broken because it attempts to solve the human problem of connection with the cold, calculating tools of high-frequency trading. We have to acknowledge that the rules of engagement have been completely rewritten by algorithms designed to maximize platform engagement rather than foster human happiness. You are not crazy for feeling like the current system is completely dysfunctional. Today, we are going to tear down the illusion, look at the raw data, and understand the exact psychological shifts that have created this mess. We are going to define the reality of what it means to be a man trying to navigate a market that actively works to make you feel invisible. We need to examine the profound economic and social instability that is quietly rewriting how men understand their responsibility and self-worth. It is completely understandable that so many of you are exhausted. You are putting in massive amounts of effort only to receive absolutely nothing in return. Older generations fundamentally misunderstand this dynamic, assuming the dating scene is exactly like it was when they were younger. They do not comprehend the algorithmic barriers that modern men are forced to overcome daily. We are going to peel back the layers of this societal shift and expose the raw mechanics driving this immense level of dissatisfaction. Many of you listening right now have felt the sting of this reality, assuming that there is something inherently wrong with you. I am here to tell you that the system itself is operating exactly as it was designed to operate. It is designed to extract your attention, monetize your loneliness, and keep you perpetually engaged in a cycle of digital desperation. By understanding the architecture of this environment, you can finally stop internalizing the rejection and start strategizing for your own success. This episode is dedicated to breaking down the exact mechanics of this crisis. We will look at the harsh realities of digital marketplaces, the paradoxes women are facing, and the immense psychological toll this takes on the average guy. By the end of this broadcast, you will have a comprehensive understanding of the board we are playing on. More importantly, you will know exactly how to adjust your strategy to protect your own future. Let us begin by mining the data to aggregate the incredibly harsh statistics that define modern dating apps. If you feel like you are swiping into a void, the numbers completely validate your experience. A staggering 95% of swipes by women on these platforms are passes. Meanwhile, the average man has a match rate of roughly 0.6%, meaning he must swipe right over 140 times just to secure a single solitary match. These apps are not neutral matchmaking services. They operate as heavily rigged search engines designed to exploit human psychology for profit. Platform algorithms actively utilize popularity bias to recommend the most frequently linked profiles to the widest possible audience. This creates a digital environment optimized to match the vast majority of women with a microscopic fraction of men. Specifically, the market aggressively favors the tallest, most aesthetic CEOs, VIPs, and clients. We are looking at a system where a tiny minority of men capture the absolute vast majority of female attention, creating an extreme concentration of romantic capital. This disparity has essentially forged a modern class system of desirability, where the Gini coefficient for dating app likes reveals a level of inequality surpassing the wealth distribution of most developed nations. Furthermore, the hyper-casualization of intimacy has fundamentally altered how humans perceive relationship value. Social media platforms have saturated the market with carefully curated, heavily filtered images of idealized lifestyles. When you combine this social media saturation with the explosive rise of OnlyFans, you witness the complete destruction of genuine self-confidence. People are constantly pretending to be someone they are not just to hook up with a perceived perfect 10. These platforms have created rampant hypergamy on steroids, where users are perpetually looking for an unrealistic original upgrade. The digital landscape promises an endless catalog of potential mates, making the cost of investing in a normal relationship seem far too high. Men are increasingly abandoning the ups and downs of real life for the instant gratification offered by screens, while women elevate their standards to physically impossible heights. We are living in an era where the baseline for physical attraction has been artificially inflated by digital manipulation. Filters and editing software have established a standard of beauty that does not actually exist in the physical world. This toxic combination completely erodes the foundation of mutual respect and realistic expectations. The illusion of endless options makes everyone believe that their perfect match is just one more swipe away. As a result, genuine connection is sacrificed at the altar of optionality. Users treat potential partners as disposable utilities, leading to a relentless cycle of ghosting and superficial engagement. The market has effectively commodified romance, stripping away the vulnerability required to actually build a meaningful bond. This environment is not a natural evolution of human courtship. It is a highly engineered ecosystem designed to exploit our deepest psychological vulnerabilities. When every single interaction is reduced to a split-second evaluation of a heavily edited photograph, the entire concept of personality becomes completely irrelevant. The algorithms do not care about your character, your loyalty, or your long-term potential as a partner. They only care about metrics, and those metrics dictate that you will remain invisible unless you conform to an incredibly narrow standard of physical and financial perfection. The modern dating pool has been transformed into an endless digital catalog where human beings are casually discarded with a flick of a thumb. We must recognize that the companies building these platforms are fully aware of this dynamic. As these applications mature, their focus shifts aggressively toward maximizing revenue by exploiting this exact popularity bias. They deliberately gatekeep the most attractive profiles, forcing the average guy to pay for premium features just to escape algorithmic invisibility. The modern dating app is a slot machine, designed to drain your self-esteem through constant rejection while stringing you along with the faint hope of a massive payout. This is the rigged casino you are walking into every time you unlock your phone. We also need to address the reality for women, as documented extensively throughout our research sources. While men are starving in a desert of invisibility, women are drowning in an ocean of low-quality attention. This phenomenon is known as the female paradox. Women are receiving an overwhelming volume of matches and messages, but they report profound dissatisfaction with the actual connections they are making. Because they are inundated with superficial noise, they become hyper-selective as a necessary defense mechanism. They end up exclusively chasing the top tier who possess the wealth and aesthetic appeal to stand out in a crowded digital room. However, because these highly successful clients have an extreme abundance of options, they have absolutely no incentive to commit. These men often only want to fill up their night with casual encounters, completely avoiding the obligations of a serious relationship. This leads to the ultimate regret for countless women. They end up wasting their absolute prime years trapped in ambiguous situationships, chasing men who will never view them as an equal partner. Eventually, many of these women will wake up and realize they squandered the best years of their lives on the wrong guys. We must contrast this tragic cycle with the reality of the good guys who wait patiently on the sidelines. Normal, hard-working men are looking to build a stable life, only to find the dating pool severely diluted by fake standards. They encounter an absolute refusal from modern women to build a genuine 50-50 partnership. Instead of seeking mutual growth, many women internalize the belief that a relationship should be a constant source of thrilling, extraordinary moments. They demand an endless stream of validation and entertainment, driven by the relationship performativity they see on social media. When the average guy tries to offer loyalty, stability, and genuine care, his efforts are completely dismissed because he lacks the curated lifestyle of a digital influencer. This mismatch of intent is a sociological disaster. Women seek clarity, but refuse to leave toxic dynamics, because leaving feels worse than waiting around for a VIP to finally commit. By the time they recognize the value of the patient, normal man, the damage has already been done. The sheer volume of attention women receive creates an overwhelming cognitive load, leading to a phenomenon known as dating burnout. When every swipe yields a match, the perceived value of each individual match plummets to absolute zero. This creates a paradox where abundance actually leads to profound emotional starvation. They are surrounded by options, but entirely devoid of genuine connection. The tragic irony is that the stability they actually need is readily available from the men they are algorithmically trained to ignore. By prioritizing the fleeting excitement of a chaotic situationship over the quiet consistency of a real partnership, they actively sabotage their own long-term happiness. This cycle of poor decisions is reinforced by a culture that prioritizes temporary thrills over enduring commitment. The good guys have been thoroughly burned by the system, leading us directly into the massive psychological fallout of this entire broken structure. The tragedy is that the men who actually want to build a family and provide stability are entirely overlooked during the exact years when couples should be building their foundation together. Instead, the market actively rewards the most manipulative behavior while punishing those who adhere to traditional relationship virtues. Women are left exhausted by the noise, while the men who could actually offer them peace are left entirely out in the cold. Let us synthesize the first-hand accounts of what happens on the other side of the coin. We have to examine how optimistic normal guys are pushed into a state of deep cynicism. No one starts out deeply cynical or hateful toward the dating process. Most guys begin their journey hopeful, optimistic, and willing to place women on a pedestal of respect. However, the raw reality of the modern market relentlessly beats that optimism out of them. They experience rampant hypergamy, profound superficiality, and a total lack of loyalty firsthand. This deep cynicism is not born out of thin air. It is the direct, logical result of repeated exposure to a fundamentally dishonest system. When a man operates with integrity and is consistently punished for it, his worldview is inevitably shattered. There is a constant underlying anxiety that modern partners are always looking over their shoulder for the next best thing. Men frequently find themselves dealing with orbiters, which are other guys hovering around the periphery of the relationship, just waiting for the primary man to slip up. This creates an environment where a man feels he is perpetually on trial, forced to constantly prove his worth against an invisible digital roster. The emotional toll of constantly competing against an invisible army of digital suitors is absolutely staggering. It drains the joy out of courtship and replaces it with a perpetual state of defensive paranoia. Furthermore, there is a shocking lack of romantic effort from modern women. The dynamic often feels entirely one-sided, with women relying heavily on their looks while expecting the man to plan, execute, and finance every romantic interaction. If the man exhibits any shortcoming, he is brutally criticized and immediately discarded. Even in the most intimate moments, the reality often falls severely short of the hype. Many men report experiencing the reality of the bored, starfish dynamic in the bedroom, where physical intimacy feels entirely one-sided and completely devoid of traditional emotional connection. It is no surprise that this pipeline of economic instability and algorithmic rejection leads men straight into the manosphere. We must acknowledge exactly why the manosphere resonates so heavily with men who feel lied to by the traditional dating narrative. When society tells a young man that working hard and being kind will lead to a happy marriage, but the data proves he is mathematically invisible to women, he seeks answers elsewhere. The manosphere provides a framework that actually acknowledges his loneliness and explains his frustration. It validates the painful truth that the modern dating scene is incredibly hostile to average men. The manosphere simply provides a vocabulary for this exact type of psychological exhaustion. It gives voice to the men who have been quietly suffering under the weight of expectations that are mathematically impossible to meet. Society demands that these men stoically accept their disenfranchisement, but the human psyche can only endure so much rejection before it seeks an alternative narrative. While some of the rhetoric in those spaces can be extremely toxic, the underlying pain driving men there is absolutely real and completely justified. These men have realized that the harsh critiques regarding modern dating dynamics hold actual undeniable weight. They are exhausted from being treated as disposable utilities in a system that demands everything from them and offers nothing in return. The manosphere steps in to fill the void left by a society that completely refuses to acknowledge male struggles. It gives them a sense of agency in a world that has otherwise entirely stripped them of their romantic leverage. As we conclude this emergency briefing, we must define the ultimate scarcity in this market. The true rarity is not a luxury car or a high-paying job. I need to describe the immense difficulty of finding a loyal, beautiful partner with actual self-respect, traditional virtues, and the ability to operate without constant external validation. Finding a grounded woman who genuinely understands how to exist in a 50-50 relationship is like searching for a needle in a digital haystack. Most of the dating pool is drowning in a sea of algorithmic noise, desperately seeking the approval of strangers on the internet. A woman who does not hate herself, who rejects the superficiality of swipe culture, and who values character over status is the most valuable asset you could possibly find. If you are fortunate enough to encounter this rare exception, you must recognize her worth immediately. However, you cannot control the market, and you cannot force the dating pool to change its behavior. Therefore, I must deliver the final call to action for every single man listening today. You must stop playing a rigged game and start focusing entirely on building your own baseline value and success. You must recognize that your energy is your most precious commodity, and you cannot afford to waste it on a market that actively degrades your value. The only viable strategy is complete and total self-investment. You have to dismantle the illusion of choice and refuse to let a dating app dictate your self-worth. Step away from the endless swiping and the manufactured anxiety. Channel all of your frustration, your energy, and your resources into your own personal development, your career, and your physical health. Build a life of genuine substance that does not rely on the unpredictable whims of a broken social economy. When you focus on your own physical, financial, and mental growth, you insulate yourself from the chaos of the swiping culture. You build a fortress of personal excellence that cannot be diminished by the superficial judgments of the digital crowd. A true partnership is built on mutual respect, shared values, and a willingness to navigate the complexities of life together as absolute equals. Do not settle for anything less than a woman who genuinely understands and embodies these principles. When you prioritize your own growth and establish undeniable personal excellence, you transcend the petty games of the modern dating market. You become the architect of your own reality, completely independent of whether or not the algorithm decides to favor you today. Stay disciplined, stay focused, and never compromise your standards for someone who views you as an option rather than a priority. Until you find her, remain dedicated to your own mission and let the rest of the market tear itself apart. Thank you for tuning into The Short Game.